The Boulder police never investigated this.
Yeah, I'm amazed, but this case can come to justice using good forensics.
All right, what else?
We'll click for a second. So
Yeah.
here.
How did they get John Bonet from her bedroom down to the basement without the parents waking up?
Well, it started with inside information. John Bonet stayed at the neighbor's house many times when Patsy had stage 4 cancer and in business deals. So the nice neighbors across the street were elderly. They didn't know that the organizer lived in the basement for about a year. Didn't know. It was a shock to John Ramsey and Patsy. So they knew John Bonet was one of the girls, a 6-year-old girl that was a hard sleeper. So when she fell asleep, John said you could carry her in, take her jackets off. She just doesn't wake up. They knew that across the street. They had inside information. The dog wasn't there because it was across the street, so they didn't have the dogs barking. So they had lots of inside information and a very good view of the Ramseys' house. So what happened was they walked into John Bonet's room on the 2nd floor. John Bonet's room was about 60 to 80 feet from the parents' part of the house, which is up front. This house was added on. So John Bonet is like on her own section of the house, out in the middle of nowhere in the house, you might say. They went into the room. John Bonet's sleeping in her bed. They take a nice soft, real silky soft, very strong nylon cord called a utility cord, not a parachute cord as what's been put out there. We tested it in the cold case lab. Parachute cord, when you pull it tight, it stays tight, you're done, you're choked. They needed something when you pull it tight over and over again, it loosens right up, because this was part of bondage. So they took a 48-inch piece of this white, soft, silky nylon cord, slipped it around John Bonet's neck, she's a hard sleeper, twisted it real tight, and the second intruder had a 50,000 volt stun gun and stun gunned her on her left side. Now, John Bonet could not scream because she's choked, and instantly she could not move. So people say, how could you kidnap a child and do that and take her down there? They would scream and the parents would hear it. Well, the location, choking first, stun gun, and major stun gun marks because it left rectangular tab marks on her side, her body, so it was an extended long amount. So John Bonet would not have hard thinking, she would be paralyzed. They then moved the blankets to the base of her bed, took her pillow to the base of the bed. People said, why? A child wouldn't do that. They went outside John Bonet's bedroom, which was a full laundry room on the 2nd floor, grabbed 2 nice white blankets with a stack of clothes there, put her these blankets on the bed, wrapped her up in a Mexican-style papoose, as the way John found her. So she was wrapped up in 2 sets of blankets, and that controlled her. They could then take her out, 2 people, carry her down the spiral stairs to the basement, choked. They had to keep her alive because they're going to collect the ransom money. So when they undone the cord, because you can live for 4 to 6 minutes choked and still alive, when she got her senses back, she screamed, and the neighbors heard that scream. So what makes us think forensically, using forensic science, that cord was actually tied around her neck at the bed? Because cord fibers from that nylon cord that was matched forensically was found at the head of her bed. So we know that cord, and it was pulled tight to shed the center cores. And looking at the forensics on it, one of the cord was cut at the end, and we know exactly which end, which cord the fibers came from.
And yet the Boulder police never followed up on that angle.
They blamed it on the parents, and one of the theories was John Bonet peed her bed, which crime scene evidence shows she didn't, but they posted it out there in the world media that Patsy must have got upset, took John Bonet and smashed her in the bathroom. Crime scene photos showed nothing out of place, and crime scene photos, like the 2nd photo that Boulder Crime Lab took, shows a perfect bed, no pee stains whatsoever.
You know, Roscoe, I got to tell you, it's bad enough the murder of a child and the loss of a child, what the Ramseys endured, but to be accused of killing your own child, talk about justice. Now, Patsy passed away of cancer without ever, even though the DA cleared her, Patsy was already in her grave. She didn't get to hear that being cleared. She had to live with that, of magazines, tabloids, TV shows blaming her for the death of her own child, and the suspicion, people across the country. But where are we headed with this case. What do you see happening? Oops. So Roscoe, where are we headed? What does the future hold for John Ramsey? And I'm showing on the screen an email that you got from John Ramsey congratulating you on your work over 12 years. But where are we headed with this case? Is there going to be justice for John Ramsey?
Boulder Police controls this case. Boulder Police is fully capable of bringing this to justice. We have to find out why it's being stalled. Boulder Police for the last few years went lip silent. They won't release the new DNA to crime labs that could take that DNA and use familiar technology, DNA. We can identify these people, the ones that are alive and the ones that are dead. This can easily be done by the Boulder Police, but you're going to have somebody in there to take the bull by the horns and get past the politics or whatever the cover-up is, what's holding this case. There's clearly, this case is stalled. If it was me, I would remove the case from Boulder Police and get an outside agency in there, and we could solve this case in just a few months.
And I'll tell you what, I want to close by thanking the Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson for accommodating, allowing this evidence to be presented. They're going to do what they can to get justice for John Ramsey's family. The Undersheriff Mike Angus took well over an hour earlier today meeting with your team and going through how you came about getting some of this evidence. Some of the things we're not going to reveal here, especially names, because I don't want to be like CBS and get sued, but I kind of think CBS had it wrong, and John Ramsey's got a big check coming along with Burke Ramsey for not only CBS, but maybe the city of Boulder for wronging him for so many years. Would you agree with that synopsis of this case?
I do, and I think maybe that could be one of the reasons it's stalled.
This is the Michigan Crusaders. I'm Mike Kilbreth. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you go to myamadvantage.com, talk about the case, and make sure on our Facebook page you put some pressure on the Boulder Police to do the right thing and solve this case. Good.
Yeah, that works.
We hold it.
Still going.
Go to myamadvantage.com for updates and tell the Boulder Police you want this case solved. I'm Mike Kilbreth. Thanks for tuning in to the Michigan Crusaders. Perfect. All right.
That's a start in the right direction.
Jeff Mackey, Markel McKinley in that time, and McKinley is down.
And hopefully he's going to bounce up, and he is going to
Yeah.
get up, and he's walking
But
it
very
off.
quickly, Jeff Dembowski called for the trainer, so the big guy from Detroit, the Detroit native, comes out of the game right now. He's going to be replaced by Mike Hanlon.
Everybody out there in TV land, this is the Michigan Crusaders. I'm your host, Mike Kilbreth. Televising. We're going to start over.
Just
And hello to everyone out there in TV land. This is the Michigan Crusaders. I'm your host, Mike Kilbreth. Jeez, been a while since I've done my open. I have to get it back. And hello to everyone out there in TV land. This is the Michigan Crusaders. I am Mike Kilbreth, your host on a crusade to serve as a watchdog over your tax dollars. And hey, I'm just back from the Kentucky Derby. As a matter of fact, I got a call, an important call the night before the Derby from Roscoe Clark of Flint Township in the John Bonet investigative team. And we featured him. I do a radio show in Metro Flint. I've been doing it the last 10 years, and for the last 6 years, before he was famous on the cover of the National Enquirer 6-8 times, Roscoe Clark has been on my radio show. We've been following this story even before the National Enquirer had it. But one of the biggest murder mysteries in the history of the country, as far as I'm concerned. Let me back up. One take Mike is two take Mike today. I forgot the rest of the open. And hello to everybody. everybody out there in TV land. This is the Michigan Crusaders. I am your host, Mike Kilbreth, on a crusade to serve as a watchdog over your text hours, televising on our new statewide syndicated show on CCN 90 TV, compliments of Comcast Xfinity, televising, geez, tongue-tied, unfamiliar surroundings. And hello to everybody out there in TV land. This is the Michigan Crusaders. I am your host, Mike Kilbreth, on a crusade to serve as a watchdog over your tax dollars and televising. Jeez, I can't get started, Roscoe.
Keep it simple.
Just so Derek knows, I'm usually one or two takes.
Keep it simple. Go ahead. Take it.
Okay.
And hello to everybody out there in TV land. This is the Michigan Crusaders. I am your host, Mike Kilbreth, on a crusade to serve as a watchdog over your tax dollars, coming to you across the state of Michigan, our new syndicated TV show, compliments of CCN 90 TV on Comcast Xfinity's network, to more than 4 million TV sets and 1.2 million homes, as well as from our broadcast originating station on CW50 TV in Detroit, as well as our gadgets through the CCN digital dial. I don't even know how the gadgets, Roscoe will have to explain them to you. But hey, I'm back early from the Kentucky Derby. As you can see, I'm not even in my normal suit and tie. I've got my Kentucky Derby stuff because we had a big story and we had to get back to town. Roscoe Clark found out about midnight before the Kentucky Derby that a big break in a case that we've been following. I'll tell you, we've been following it for many, many years. Before Roscoe was famous on the cover of the National Enquirer, we were doing this story about one of the most famous murder mysteries in the history of the United States, the Christmas Eve murder of little John Benet Ramsey in Boulder, Colorado. And we have a big break in the case. I have a couple members of the John Benet
investigation.
I have a couple members of the John Benet investigation team, Roscoe Clark of Flint Township, and pronounce your last name again?
Brumrick.
Got it. And Derek Bromrick from Minnesota. These two gentlemen, we just delivered to the FBI because I figured some of the stuff I was hearing is a little dangerous. These guys needed a little safety, so we wanted to hand it off to some friends I have in town. So compliments to Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson and his team over at the Genesee County Sheriff's Department, Under Sheriff Mike Angus, former Flint City police officer who worked for many years for the FBI in Flint, and Mike is now the Under Sheriff for Chris Swanson at the Genesee County Sheriff's Department. We delivered them a packet with some DNA because we know who the killer is, and these two gentlemen have helped solve one of the biggest murder mysteries in American history. We'll be back after these commercial messages to tell you all about it here on the Michigan Crusaders. All right.
Next step.
How was that?
What do you want to do? I'll hit
Let's do Derek in the middle.
Let me shut down the tape so we can reserve tape for a moment.
This will actually be the... And we're back here on the Michigan Crusaders. I'm your host, Mike Kilbreth. In this segment, we're going to sit down with Roscoe Clark, a forensic scientist who has cracked this case in... And we're back here on the Michigan Crusaders. I'm your host, Mike Kilbreth, and in this segment, we're going to talk with Roscoe Clark of John Benet Investigations. Roscoe is a forensic scientist from Flint, Michigan. He has worked with me on a number of cases. As a matter of fact, the Edmund Fitzgerald case, some of his work was part of a PBS documentary. Roscoe is going to break it down of how we got to this point. And we're back here on the Michigan Crusaders. I am your host, Mike Kilbreth. And in this segment, we're going to sit down with the, what do you call